Make large crypto trades with Kraken OTC, execute orders of more than 100,000 off the open exchange through our premium OTC trading service. Get 24/7 access to deep liquidity, minimal slippage, and competitive execution and settlement services. Private and secure trading options include chatting securely with our trade desk for a personalized high-touch service, or use our self-service RFQ for super fast, automated OTC trading. Non-investment advice, crypto trading involves risk of loss and is offered to U.S. customers through Payward Interactive Inc. For more information, go to realvision.com/Kraken OTC.
Well, hello everyone for another episode of REKT Vision. I think it's a other show.
Smooth.
I know. God, good to see you again, OSF. Another crazy week in crypto.
Yeah, good. I feel like I haven't seen you this week, have I? Really?
No, and we're both in London. I'm in another hotel room. I think I've been in like 5 different hotel rooms for all of these shows on a Friday.
Did you just book a hotel room for the day? Is that how you're kind of doing it, and then just?
Yeah, it's like a hotel room office basically, just for the show. But yeah, nice. It's been a decent week. I feel like again, markets are slightly higher. I think we're probably about 5% higher on Bitcoin. ETH we'll kind of get into has had some drama around with the ETF, and Solana's really gained traction, which I think is something that we've been talking about quite a lot on this show for the last few weeks. But generally, I would say a good week to be in crypto. A lot of people are at Bitcoin Nashville at the moment, which we'll get into with some of the headlines, and then we'll probably go into some other headlines around what's been going on in DeFi and a couple of other topics in memes. But today's show is sponsored by Kraken. Go check them out. We actually do all of our centralized trading for myself and OSF. We do on Kraken. Good website, good exchange. They're going to be sponsoring the show for the next few weeks, so we are very, very happy to have them on board. Anyway, we'll go straight into what has been going on this week. And the main thing I think really has been ETH. That's been the main story. You had 9 ETH ETFs launched this week, which had been, well flagged for a long, long time. The notable thing we mentioned last week was that Grayscale decided to keep their fees at 2.5%. Although they did launch a mini trust, and we expect to see outflows. And that is exactly what's happened. Over the first 2 days, we saw just over $1 billion of outflows, despite seeing decent inflows into, let's say, the BlackRock product and a couple of the other ETF providers, and solid volumes. You saw over $1 billion of volume on both days. You've actually seen net outflows for the ETH ETF for the last 2 days. What did you make of all this? ETH has notably underperformed this week on the back of that. It's Sol ETH and Sol BTC have kind of hit recent lows, or Sol ETH has hit a high at least. Right. Yeah, what did you make of it all?
I think it's definitely disappointing. The first day was good. The first day there were $107 million of net inflows, which I thought was a good number for ETH. I think it was pretty bad timing that the second day was the same day that the Nasdaq had its biggest daily decline since October 2022. So to expect inflows into what is kind of like a pseudo macro product on that day for a brand new ETF, I think would have been extremely impressive. So unfortunately, obviously the Grayscale outflows are going to keep going. Unfortunately, the inflows didn't quite match that day, and it was the same thing again yesterday. So we had 2 days of outflows, which resulted in a net outflow in ETH ETF so far. But it's just classic for ETH, really, like just its luck. Like when it finally gets to the ETF launching, it just happens to be like one of the worst weeks for stocks we've seen this year, and possibly even in like the last 2 years. The only thing I would say that is the only positive light that I think you can shine on this is that Grayscale is selling its holdings at a much faster rate for the ETH ETF than it was and has been doing for the Bitcoin ETF. I believe it sold something like $1.1 billion already, and at the beginning its total holdings were at the value of something like around $8 billion. So they've sold an eighth already of their total holdings, and it feels like they're probably going to be done with what they need, what they're going to sell, I think, in the space of a couple of weeks. So there's a chance if the inflows keep going and if the market stays strong, there's a chance that ETH ETFs actually see strong inflows, strong net inflows, if you like, sooner rather than Bitcoin has. But I don't know. It kind of feels like we're kind of clutching at straws here now for ETH. It's just like one hope after another hope after another hope, and this is kind of like the final nail in the coffin now. I think if you don't see these inflows pick up for ETH in the next 4 weeks, then I'm not really sure what else ETH has going for it here in terms of the narrative. So it kind of feels a little bit dicey that it's just predicated on this ETF being successful now.
Yeah, I think the timeline has generally been even ETH maxis. I feel like I've really felt it this week, haven't they? Because it was obviously leading up into this, and I don't think people expected the underperformance. I think everyone was like, "Well, this is priced in; it'll be okay." And then this happened, and we kind of dumped. But then we've seen a rebound today. But even then, ETH's underperformed on that rebound, and a lot of those metrics aren't like exactly looking too strong for it at the moment. So definitely a little bit worrying, I think, for ETH holders here, and you can kind of feel it. Have you thrown in the towel at all? I know you had a larger ETH bag than I did.
Yeah, I'm very close to throwing in the towel. I mean, right now I'm in the process of bridging my ETH off blast, so I guess I've given myself like a mandatory 7-day, what it's called, like thought period,
cooling off period.
Cooling off period. That's what I was looking for. Mandatory 7-day cooling off period, and then I'll see. I don't really want to I already have a lot of exposure to Sol, and I think if Sol ETH was below 0.05, I would have gone directly into Sol. But I'm a bit cautious of chasing it here at the highs, and that's not to say it can't go higher. I do think it probably will go higher, but I'm a bit back and forth because I do think if these grayscale outflows are done, you could actually start to see a lot of inflows into ETH ETFs, and I don't know. This feels like the last chance, but it also feels like the last hurdle to jump over as well. So I don't know. I would be really pissed if I sold all my ETH and they started just smashing in the inflows, and I was like, "Fuck!" I bag held it this entire time and just missed at the last point. So yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to keep holding the ETH for now, and then we'll see.
Well, I think having a cooling off period is probably a good idea. I feel like whenever you make these sort of shifts between Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol, it becomes like this. It's like it weighs on like your morals. It's almost like you're abandoning a child when you do it. So I just don't really know what to do when I do it. You move from Vitalik to Totally.
I'm not emotionally attached to ETH. I'm really not. Maybe I was a year ago, but I'm not now. But and I'm looking for the thing that's performing the best. But I'm also trying to balance my portfolio and not just be all in Sol. But I also, you just want to, yesterday, I've just had this existential crisis because I was like, okay, I'm bridging all this ETH off blast. I'm going to have a lot of capital again to play with and put money into. And I looked across everything and I was like, I just don't know what I want to really buy here other than Sol. And actually, to be honest with you, Bitcoin as well. I haven't held Bitcoin for a long time, but I'm now starting to think Bitcoin potentially is one of the best majors to hold just from a risk reward standpoint. I think Bitcoin could still do 2 or 3x, and that's what I think Sol could do or ETH could do. But obviously the downside of Bitcoin is much less than the downside is of the other two. I think anyway. I don't know, but I'm also conscious of saying that at Bitcoin dominance highs. But it just feels like if you have the strategic reserve stuff in the US, Bitcoin suddenly has another thing going for it that the others don't. I don't know. I'm lost. I'm having a bit of an existential crisis. I'm lost. I've gone and punted a load of random meme coins and don't know, just binge trading on random shit. I need to take a step away from screens. Sorry, this wasn't meant to turn into some sort of therapy session between you and me, but
no, it has been. I've really seen you you've probably gone off piste the last few days. You keep on putting random tickers in my chat and just what has happened here. I feel like you're chasing it a little bit now that you feel like you can get the ETH off fast enough, and now you're like, well, I've got to put it into some random meme coin to try and make it all back.
I've got to make a quick 5x somewhere to make up for all that underperformance.
I do think, I mean, have you zoomed out on the Bitcoin dominance chart? It's wild. Like since mid 2022, Bitcoin dominance has just been up only, basically no volatility. I think we're about to bring it up now, but it is. Look at that.
Just a nice grind higher. Huh?
It's just a grind. And this isn't a period where stablecoins have come back a lot. So this is a period where stablecoins have also rebounded on this period, and it's still continued to just go higher and higher and higher. And it's tough. It is tough to imagine fading that just with the strength that you've seen. And part of me, I'm like you. I'm not married to Solana. That's the other thing I think is important to say. Is like one thing I've just realized is that I think L1s in general sometimes have a difficult narrative multi-cycle. Like by nature, we are probably always going to come up with a new, faster, cheaper L1 form of payments, right? To do various different things on the blockchain. Although there are network externalities that build up, I feel like each cycle is going to be something that makes the last cycle look slightly old. And it's just something, I mean, there have only been a few cycles with different L1s, so at least different L1s outside of Bitcoin. So I feel as though it's just that it feels like this is Solana's adoption cycle. I think that's what Raou says as well. And next cycle, we might see something that makes Sol look like ETH this cycle, right? So I feel like that's where my head's at. It's just the nature of investing in different L1s. This means every 4 years is probably going to be something that looks, or every I don't know, 4 to 6 years is always going to be something that looks slightly better. So that's where my head's at, and I do feel that Solana's just got it this cycle. It's just got the adoption, and it's not sitting there at the same market cap as ETH, right? It's sitting there still. I think it's still shy of 100 billion. Maybe around that now, but that's quite a big difference to where ETH is sitting, which is around 400. So yeah, I think you could have still a bit of a catch up trade there. But yeah, it does feel as though Solana maxis have been dunking on everyone this week, and I don't know. There's something that tells me that this is not going to be as simple as well, and it's particularly not as. I think you've got to be so wary of it, multi-cycle L1s, just because of this whole narrative.
Well, I've been looking at JLP that you mentioned a few days ago. I think it's worth spending 5 minutes talking about that, because it is quite an interesting, like a question we often get on the show is like, what's your ideal weighting between Sol, ETH, Bitcoin? What should you own? How's that change? And I know you put a lot of money into JLP a few days or a few weeks ago now, which has been a good trade, and it kind of already decides those weightings for you. But I think it's worth talking about that a little bit, because I'm also considering, that's one of the things I'm also considering putting my ETH into, and just not.
So I'm pitching it to you, am I? I'm pitching it to you.
Basically pitching it to me. But I think it's interesting because like everyone has a lot, every other week we do get that question, what's your ideal weight between Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol? And this is something that kind of solves for that, but also gives you additional yield, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, so I originally got interested in this form of investment last year with GMX. GMX had a called GLP. In fact, a lot of the different perp protocols have a GLP. Hyperliquid has HLP. So this is just the liquidity protocol of Jupiter and JLP. But I looked at it again this cycle, and GMX's market share in the perp space is not as high, and it had a higher weighting towards ETH. But basically how this works is these perp dexes, they trade using your liquidity. So if you want to go levered long on a decentralized perp dex, how are you getting that liquidity? You get it from a pool of assets. Now, unlike Uniswap, where you often create a two-sided pool, let's say ETH USDC, or it's just a two-sided pair. The way that these perp protocols work is they're actually multi-asset, and they put them into a pool, and your coin is redeemable for the assets in that pool. So JLP is redeemable for the assets in the pool. And really the differences between all these different perp protocols is what weighting they put on the different assets in the pool. And secondly, the volume that goes through them / the market share they have. GMX, Hyperliquid are very popular ones in kind of the ETH universe. DYDX, although I don't think DYDX has a perp protocol like this. Potentially not. I need to check that. But GMX was famous during this time, and Jupiter opened their perp platform at the start of this year, basically, and they weighted the pool of assets you're able to trade with more towards Solana. So the pool that they allow you to trade with is 45% Solana. It's 10% Bitcoin, 10% ETH, and 35% stables, because you are trading often against stables, right? So it's ETH, it's a Sol USDC pair that you're trading against. So whenever you're trying to do a perp trade on one of these platforms, you're essentially using the assets in that pool. Now, what that means is if you buy JLP, you effectively have the exposure of the assets in that pool. So you basically own a portfolio which is 45% Sol, 10% Bitcoin, 10% ETH, and then 35% stable. So you're only 65% risk on. But what you do is you earn the fees basically of this protocol, and there's a range of different fees to do with opening a trade, closing a trade, and notably liquidations as well. And that's quite a big one. So on days where like, for example, yesterday, on a day where most of the majors were down 5 to 10%, let's say, you would assume that JLP would be down, 65% of that roughly. So you would assume that would be down like 3 to 4% potentially. It was only down 1%. And the reason for that is because you get a lot of liquidations on those sort of days, which means the fees also, which JLP Jupiter earns, goes in directly into that pool. So you might think, oh wow, this is just like free money. You basically make money off people doing degen levered trades, and you earn some of the fees. Now, there have been some risk around this. Notably, GMX, one trader managed to like game the system and made not a ton of money, but I think it was somewhere between 10 to 20 million. And
that's a ton of money.
Enough that it was notable, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And you also wear those wins. So if somebody wins from the pool, you lose. Don't describe that, but you earn from the net profit of the traders as well. Now, normally for these perp platforms, on average, traders lose money. I hate to break it to you, but if your friend is a perp trader and he's telling you he's making money, look at the returns of all these perp protocols, and pretty much day in, day out, these perp protocols are making money because traders are not. And that is, so you're generally making money, but there's just some variation. Like some days people are making money and you're not. So on average, it means that you have a yield, but there's some variation on a weekly basis. I think if you type in JLP just into Google, you'll see, I think it's making about a 50% APY right now. It gets to as high on a weekly basis up to 85 to 100%, and it gets as low as like 20%. But that's the variability I've seen. So you earn some base level yield to it. It gives you 65% exposure, of which that's weighted mainly towards Solana. And in particular, like if you bring up the JLP chart on CoinGecko, for example, the Sharpe ratio on this thing is insane. So if you look back over the last year on JLP, the variability is, you see, that thing just doesn't really go down. It's just an up and to the right, and that mask, like if you bring up the Bitcoin or Solana, or this is mainly Solana. Now, if you look at the Solana chart, it looks completely different to that, right? And it also looks different to the ETH and Bitcoin chart. So it has this kind of just upward sloping into the right move. But the risk there is obviously it's DeFi. you own a share of a pool, of which who knows if someone, if North Korea decides they can hack the private keys of those who govern it. And secondly, you are somewhat exposed to a very profitable trader somehow either gaming the system or doing it correctly. So those are the two main risks to it. I feel comfortable with those, so I've got money in it, but it's just an interesting thing. And the reason why I like it, this one more than you can do this on other Hyperliquid's been an incredibly popular platform. You can do this as well on ETH this cycle, and there's an airdrop coming there, which some people look at. And GMX is the other one, which people do it at. But I like Jupiter because it's such a beast in Solana DeFi. Its market share is absolutely massive. It kind of governs a lot of the trading there, and it's still unclear whether you will maybe get a part of their next airdrop, or just being involved in this token could potentially be part of Jupiter as well. And it's more of a play on Solana DeFi volumes, which are unbelievable at the moment compared to ETH TVL. So if you see Solana doing a 3-4-5x in terms of TVL, you can imagine a comparative move in DeFi volumes, and that will probably move up that yield even more.
What the question I have is, so 65% of it are in tokens, and of that 65%, what's the split between Sol, ETH, and Bitcoin? It's like majority Sol.
45% is, so of the total, 45% is Solana, 10% is ETH, and 10% is Bitcoin. So you're essentially, your Solana bag is 4 times the size of either of your Bitcoin or ETH bags. So it's like a 60% Solana, or 70%, 65-ish% Solana, and then 15 to 20 of the other two if you look at the risk assets.
Yeah. So let's say like the price of Sol doubles. This should do like a 1.5, 1.6x kind of thing. But obviously it's mitigated to the downside. And then it also just depends on like what the fees are, if there are tons of fees in that move.
Yeah, well, I think Solana pretty much started the year at 100 or thereabouts. It's up about 80% potentially on the year, or just shy of that now. I think JLP is up about the same or slightly more. So even though it's only 45% Solana, it's actually outperformed any single one of the majors, including Solana, which I think is now the best performer out of them all. But I need to double check those figures.
Because of all the fees, basically.
Because of all the fees. Yeah. So on a short-term time frame, like if you think the market's about to rip, you're probably better owning Solana. But if you think the market, you're not, it might rip over the next 3 months, but you're not sure when, that's when it really catches up. So on a single day, it shows less variability. That's why the Sharpe, like I said, the Sharpe ratio just shows a lot less volatility.
Yeah, that's interesting. It kind of feels like something you can just put some money in, set and forget. Obviously, taking into account the other risks that you mentioned with regard to it being DeFi, but.
Well, I've been involved in liquidity farming before on a few of these different protocols, and I feel like with the emergence of V3s, with things like Uniswap, actually you have slightly more like option based payoffs. Like sometimes if it goes outside your range, it doesn't really work as well, or you have to have a much tighter range where you're offering liquidity, and it requires a lot more management. Like a lot of DeFi actually requires a lot of day-to-day management of how to set different pairs when it's only a two-sided pair. This allows you to basically not have to worry about that. It allows you to play on macro themes, well, let's say not macro themes, but bigger themes in crypto, which are, even if you're not as bullish on Solana, you're bullish on Solana DeFi volumes. It feels like they are going up only, whatever you think about the underlying technology. And this is a way for you to play that. It allows you to play on the idea that people like to degen, particularly mid to late cycle. Like the idea of doing 10x longs towards the end of the cycle becomes incredibly popular. And generally, people lose money on those things as a whole, not individual traders, but on a whole. And yeah, so I like it for a lot of those reasons. But it's not, nothing's perfect. You know, you get that yield, but you appreciate the risks. Jupiter, I don't think has had a major security incident, and obviously the actual concept behind this has been used by several other perp providers, so it's not like it's a completely new concept. But yeah, it's DeFi, so you have to understand the risk.
I'm gonna have to think about it. Good chance I end up buying some JLP. Well, in 6 days after my cooling off period.
I have to say I've been pretty chilled. I've been there since for the last few months now, and you know, like when you have a chart like that, been in it there since April. In that time, Solana's down. And this thing is up.
Yeah,
it's up a decent amount. So it's been a very set and forget sort of trade for me, which I've liked. But I think some people are like completely against DeFi, or they're particularly after like last cycle and some of the things that people got caught up in. But yeah, it's something that I've thought has been interesting. And I actually think it's an interesting concept for them as they grow into different assets. Like, I think this is going to be an interesting concept for even things like stocks. You can imagine they can use this technology for various different pools of even securities, which they end up tokenizing on chain. And, you know, it's conceivable that you could be in a one with, you know, the Magnificent Seven, and you basically have exposure to all of them plus some stable coin, and you earn the trading fees on the back of it, of a tokenized Tesla or Nvidia. And you know, that I think this concept of DeFi is an interesting one, particularly for like allowing people to take more high risk bets.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing for the non-active trader, if you like. If you just want to just stick your money into something that generates fees, that has a good Sharpe ratio and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't get as trigger happy, let's put it that way, because you know that you're basically making money from everyone else being trigger happy. So you can just kind of chill. Yeah, that's enough about that. I'm not involved in Jupiter any other way. We didn't come on here to overly shill it, but it is it's something that I'm in. The other big news that we saw, or the biggest event of this last week, has been Bitcoin Nashville, of which we did touch upon some of the headlines that were going into it, and they seemingly have kind of gathered pace this week. RFK came out yesterday and basically implied the government should buy 600 billion of Bitcoin. And you have a prominent crypto Senator Loomis, came out and has said, well, it's been heavily implied that she's going to push the concept of a Bitcoin strategic reserve bill, which Trump may or may not endorse. For me, this is just massive if they start to recommend that the central bank should be involved in this sort of stuff. Right now on Polymarket, it's a 20% probability that Trump mentions that there should be a Bitcoin strategic reserve bill. Do you think that's about right? Do you feel like he needs to go this far? He's already very pro crypto.
I don't think he needs to go this far, and it's not like this is one of those things, but I don't think he's doing it to necessarily win votes. It's more that it just puts the USA in a much more powerful position strategically. Like, if you announce that you're going to make Bitcoin a strategic reserve asset, and you're already one of the top holders of Bitcoin, owning more than $13 billion worth, and then Bitcoin goes and does a 2 or 3x, and you make another, 15 to $30 billion, while every other country suddenly scrambles to follow you, like, that puts the US in a very strong position strategically. And that's the reason why I think Trump would do it. I don't think it's a ploy to win votes, because, as you said, he's already been quite pro crypto, and all you have to really do is say, I'm pro crypto, and for the Dems not to say they're pro crypto to win the crypto vote. You don't have to go this extra mile to do this. That's why I think there's a lot of merit to this, because I don't think it's necessarily a vote winning thing. I think it's a real policy that they're considering, which would, I think, puts the US in a much stronger position strategically at basically zero cost to them. Like, they just received all these Bitcoins, remember, like from Silk Road and all that. So it's a pretty smart move, I think, by them to do it if they do go ahead and do it. And that's why I think, like I said, that's why I think there's some potential, merit to this idea, and I don't think it's just a ploy to win votes and get people on their side. I think it's something they're seriously considering. It's just a question of like how off-piste it sounds and feels if they go and do it. But that's not the sort of thing that I think really phases Trump. So I don't know.
Yeah, I feel as though I agree with you. They obviously they're one of the biggest Bitcoin holders now, so they could easily do this. I don't think he says it. I don't think he needs to. I feel like he's caused it just a little bit, and this would be pretty aggressive thing to them to come out and say. But I can imagine you do see some form of legislation hit the House or the Senate over the course of his presidency, and there's some like chatter about it, but it does feel a little bit early for the Fed to be printing money to buy Bitcoin. I don't know. To go from Gensler to that just feels like such a jump.
I mean, they don't even have to really buy it, do they? They can just not sell what they have and they instantly benefit from it. That's the beauty of it. They don't even have to actually spend any capital if they don't want to.
If they don't want to, yeah. But I mean, if RFK is saying it should be 650,
yeah, I mean, RFK is definitely the other end of the spectrum on this. So.
But yeah, still a super bullish headline. I haven't seen that much else come out of Bitcoin Nashville. It's been, I guess, the ordinals and runes crowd seems to have settled down over the last few months. There's some talk of L2s being built on Bitcoin. And there's a bunch of different concepts around that, which did basically strategic rounds earlier in the year. But it does feel this is mainly political. This event rather than we're building new stuff on Bitcoin, and a little bit less anti-establishment. Did you see the lineup? It's kind of funny that it's just all TradFi fund managers and politicians.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And Russell Brand as well.
All right, well,
that I thought was the most random one. Like why is Russell Brand there? Although he's been in the Bitcoin game for a while, I think. But yeah. I don't know. Do you have Nashville FOMO? I wish I was going to this. It seems like it's going to be like one for the ages, I think.
It does feel like one for the ages. Did you consider? We have him in the. Are you in the studio actually, Raou? You can see us. We can see you. So
you can't see me on screen. I don't think yet. I'm hiding.
Oh really?
Arthur, when am I coming on?
There we go.
Here.
There we go. He's on.
Hello, gang. How are you?
Good to see you. Good to see you. You thought about going to Bitcoin Nashville?
No, I'm here to just talk about the new religion, which is the Church of the Smoking Chicken Fish.
No
That's
way.
all I'm here. I'm here to convert everybody to the new church.
This is how OSF's making it all back. He's owned too much ETH and decided he's going to own the most random Solana meme coins this week.
It's just pure chicken fiction.
It's the best meme I've seen probably since Crypto Dick Butts. It's just fucking genius. I mean, they have a registered church.
They have a registered church. Yeah. So this is a coin that came up in the last 4 days, actually. And it's an original Reddit meme, I think, which goes back like 12 years. The smoking chicken fish. And within
even saying it is funny.
I know. Within a couple of hours of them launching the coin, they opened up a church. So someone said it's like the 100th biggest church by market cap in the world already. I don't know where you come up with that figure, but this thing is sitting at 71 million right now. The chart looks like a movie.
So when people talk about like what we're gonna try and flip, are their targets like we're gonna try and flip the Church of England, then we're gonna try and flip like Vatican City?
That's where it's getting at. It's like they've got the Vatican at the top, and they're just like knocking them off. You know, it's that meme of the guy opening the different doors.
Yeah,
and you have to get broth-tized in a broth. I haven't gone through the ceremony yet. There's chicken commandments, which are the commandments for chicken.
Wow, you've really got into this.
Oh yeah, but so's Ovie. I see him in the chat.
Oh
yeah,
wow.
It's sort of
You've been chicken pilled, have you?
I've been chicken pilled, yeah.
I can't even imagine what that chat is like, but
it's
yeah,
very funny because what was good about it, it wasn't a pre-owned token. It was purely organic, and it was just because the meme is so funny, and the fact that they went the extra mile by opening a church. to get registered by the IRS, and then have the
registered by the IRS is really good.
Yeah.
Wait, so where is this church? Is it
It's probably
it must be in the US. It's registered by the IRS.
Yeah, somewhere in the US.
It'll probably be Texas or somewhere. But it's genius. It's genius. And so
yeah,
I saw it 2 days ago, and I didn't get a chance. I was going out for dinner, didn't buy it, so I aped in last night after I did the drinks with Raou thing. I had half a bottle of white wine, so I thought, fuck it, buy it.
You never buy
that's
any
how the best decisions are
made. This must have really touched your soul, because
it really did. I was out for dinner, and all I could think was the word smoking chicken fish. That is the best name I've ever heard. It's like a Monty Python sketch, and I knew I had to buy it. I was attracted to the church, and I've been converted now. It's a cult. It's a cult church.
It must be. I mean, at 75, it must be one of already the top Solana meme coins. This has been probably the biggest one of the week. There's been a couple of others that have had crazy runs. It does feel as though
they don't have churches.
If Sol keeps on going, if Sol keeps on going higher, this stuff is going to keep on going. I thought for a little bit, altcoins would underperform. Sorry, meme coins would underperform altcoins for a little bit, but now if Solana keeps going, the number one thing that happens on Solana is memes.
It's really interesting, because this is actually part of something we've all talked about, is when you speak to somebody in crypto markets who's relatively young and just kind of in it, this is maybe first or second cycle, and they've got like 20 grand or 10 grand in savings, and you say, look, you should invest in Solana, Bitcoin, ETH. They're like, no, I'm not going to do it. And I'm like, why not? They're like, I'm never going to make the money I need to make. And I'm like, are you serious? They're like, I'm serious. I'd rather lose the 10 grand than I would to make 30 grand and go through all of the stress. It's a really serious point why speculation is so big in the space, because there's a real need, because people, the average millennial is 35 years old. Like, Ovie, how old are you?
34. So right there.
And you're just having kids, and you've all got married, right? And most people haven't had the background, the success that you've had. They're like, how do I buy a house? How do I pay for my kids' school? How do I do all of this? And what they do is, generally, that population in the US has been pretty good. They invest in their 401k. They do what they're supposed to do, but it still doesn't get them anywhere. So they've chosen to take more risk. And it's actually logical.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's something that I remember thinking of, just the quote that, like, you get told throughout your life that hard work will mean success, but actually it's hard work and massive risk. I think to actually re-rate yourself, if you're at if you didn't start off wealthy, to actually re-rate yourself, you've got to take massive risks, because the way that capitalism works is just particularly with money printing, where owners of assets are really making money, which often means the mega rich are becoming even more rich. The only way to really re-rate yourself often is being drawn to this sort of stuff. So I mean, gambling as a whole is massively up in society, but I do think this is going to continue in crypto.
That's part of that thesis of mine of how to unfuck your future. We can all see it, right? This is the biggest macro opportunity of all time, and you can't fuck this up. I mean, these memes are serious memes that I bring up, because it does unfuck your future. It gives you some certainty about your future, and you just have to stay in the game. And that's the crucial thing. I mean, Ovie, you and I were on a podcast the other day. It was the same thing we're saying. It's like, you've got to stay in the game. But I understand it's easier. People push back and say, well, it's easier for you guys because you made some money. So Solana and Ethereum and Bitcoin work for you. It doesn't work for us. It really shocks me that's where we've got to.
At the end of the day, like, you're here for a couple of reasons. One of them may be just deploying some of your portfolio into crypto and getting a bit of extra return, and you're kind of like, okay, cool, 1% of my portfolio should be in crypto. But at the end of the day, people are here just swinging for the fences, trying to make like a 10x or 100x or whatever it is to change their lives. And like, that's the investment mandate in their head. It's like, I'm willing to lose 90% to try and make 5,000% or whatever it is. And if someone
because it is so asymmetric. And
yeah.
So, yes, you're right. It's an investment mandate they've given themselves.
Yeah.
It's exactly right way to think about it.
Yeah. I think you have to be careful not to start with that investment mandate where you're willing to lose it all and then trick yourself into thinking, oh wow, like these are all really safe assets, and I own all these blue chip meme coins, and these are all going to maintain value forever. And then you end up round tripping and losing money. I think you have to remember like the reason why you took the gambles in the first place, and I still do think they're gambles. And remember, you don't have the money until you take the profits as well. So
that's right. And this is why I think you should only use a small proportion in the super risk stuff. If you get it right, it can add a kicker onto your existing portfolio. So if you don't think 5x is enough for you for a cycle, yes, you can maybe double that by having a 10 or 20% of assets in more speculative stuff. But the whole game is not to lose all your money. So even though their mandate is let's treat it like an option, I'll throw away the premium, the worst thing is to finish the cycle with no money. That's the worst.
Yeah.
We were talking about that earlier this week. I think the number one place I see mistakes being made actually is not in this stuff, not in the lower cap memes that go from 5 to 60, because I think people are generally, that, like you said, they're gambling with smaller amounts and they're hoping for higher multiples. It's the people who are buying blue chip meme coins at 500 million to $2 billion, $3 billion market cap. And I feel like that's similar to buying blue chip NFTs last cycle. You might think you're doing something less risky, but actually they can get absolutely decimated. And I don't think the upside for a lot of these coins is actually that much better than Solana. Like, I think Bitcoin dominance stays kind of high. If we go to 100K, I think Bitcoin dominance probably stays around the same. I think Solana probably goes towards 300, and these coins maybe do a 2 to 3x. Like, I don't think, if your coin is at 1 billion, I don't think it's going to do a 5x. I think you're hoping that it goes to 2 or 3. So then I think but your downside is so much worse. It is so much worse.
I think the bigger mistake that I see a lot, and this is not to diss, because I know people get so damn tribal. People are stuck in XRP. They're stuck in Cardano. They're stuck in the memes and narratives of prior cycles, and they're hoping that it's going to do well. And I'm like, just do the chart versus sold. Stop doing this to yourself. It's really hard to get people to change that view, because it's become so tribal. They've identified with it because they're sitting on losses generally, and they don't want to realize that they got it wrong. And that I think that's really bad. I think, because then you might be an XRP, and maybe it does well, maybe it doesn't. It's not a thing about XRP, but if it's not a leader, the probability of you making as much money, you're just cobbling yourself by doing that. You have to be a little bit more mercenary, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. We also banded around the idea last week that if you take a step back, maybe 2017 was the cycle for altcoins. 2021 was the one for NFTs, and this is the cycle for meme coins. And if you owned last cycle's hot thing this cycle, you kind of underperformed each time. That's not where people are gambling. It's not like if you owned some altcoins did well last cycle, but NFTs were the real massive performer. And this cycle, if you faded memes and altcoins, you held on to altcoins, you're kind of even 2 cycles behind. And if you held NFTs, again, there wasn't really the beta to it. So I think you're right in that you just have to stop marrying stuff in crypto. It's something that I've realized. It's not like you're not Warren Buffett. You're not value investing for 100 years and you're buying Coke stock that's going to, like, it's always valuable. It's always going to come back next cycle in the business cycle. Things just do not come back. And I think, it's something you have to remember.
Because it has to have 2 factors for it to come back. It has to have actual network usage that grows, and it has to capture attention. If it has one of those missing, it ain't coming back.
Yeah. And like you just said, the person that comes in this cycle, they don't want to buy your old bags. They want to buy their new thing. They're like, it's so much funner for them to have their own thing that they own and they can buy. They don't need to get involved.
No, unless it's one of the really big proven majors that is getting network adoption, you don't need to own any. Yeah, you're right. People have a bias towards the new shiny thing, and fine. It's all about attention anyway, as we've all talked
It's
about.
always all about attention, yeah. Whichever thing can pitch the greatest narrative and garner the greatest attention.
Yeah, because in the end, attention is actually a finite resource. You've only got so much attention as the number of people in the space, and then that needs to be divided amongst the various assets. And there's too many assets for most of them to get attention, which is why 99% of everything on pump.fund doesn't go anywhere, because there's just simply not enough attention.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That this cycle, you also have to appreciate that there could be another meme coin like this fish next week. If you're, it is so dangerous to get,
unless it comes with something better than a church. I don't know what
better than a church. You're married to this one all the way. All the select meme coins.
We've got a dog with a hat, and we've got a dog with a hat. Now we've got a chicken with a church. I mean, you need to find me something better now.
Yeah, enough. The bar is rising. That's for sure.
That's right.
You guys are both going to be community members by the end of this. I can already tell. You'll be hanging out at the church.
I'm one of many community members at this stage. So
yeah,
I'm a member of many communities, I should say.
What did you make of the macro sell-off this week? Everyone freaked out. I'm sure everyone was calling you up saying, "Do I need to panic?" The chart does look like, oh my god, it's come so far, and then it dips a little bit. You're like, oh god, this could really, this could really go.
It's interesting. I was on another call. I was on another call just now, and people were asking about that, saying, well, Nasdaq really sold off hard and it spilled, and dollar yen and blah 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 blah. I'm like, listen, you guys have been in crypto. What happens is occasionally the leverage gets flushed in short term, and then it all resets and goes back. That's what happened. A bunch of people got carried out by something, losing the money. They unwind a bunch of stuff, and then it all stops. So there's nothing more than that. And it happens, we're so used to it in crypto. It's like funding rates going up, funding rates going up, funding rates going up, market collapses for a bit, cheeky 10, 15% correction, and then off it goes again. That's really what happened in TradFi land, and it spilled over into crypto land. Nothing more than that. There's no real macro that drove it.
Can I ask, because someone, it was going around on the timeline that this, someone was blowing up in Japan. That's what I saw a few different people say. And I didn't know if this was something that we spoke about a few months ago. Do you think we've seen a little bit of a Bank of Japan intervention that we don't know about here?
Yeah, I think the BOJ have been generally intervening, because as the dollar's starting to turn, as rates are starting to come lower, they really have to get this lower. Everybody's got their funding to do of their debts. Nobody wants this. The Chinese don't want it. Everybody wants a weaker dollar, including the US at this point. So I think everybody's kind of focused on that. And if you're going to blow up a bit of carry trade leverage to do it, that's fine. I doubt it was big enough to blow people up, because everyone knows the BOJ was involved. I don't hear the 1998 style, every hedge fund in the world was long dollar yen until it blew up. So I think just VAR. If you're at Millennium or you're at a bank, dollar yen moves a lot. Currencies don't move a lot, but when they do, it forces your VAR to shrink. So you have to start reducing positions across the board.
Yeah, it did feel like one of those blow ups.
Yeah.
The other big news that I saw this week was actually some big corporates getting into crypto. So I don't know if you saw the headline that Google is actually like silently building out this whole crypto landscape. The guy runs Blockworks put out a tweet this I think it was today or yesterday, which is something that I hadn't really picked up on, but they are building a ton of infrastructure. Here we are. Google is quietly pushing big into crypto, cloud support, blockchain analytics, node infra, free testnet ETH, validator for several big L1s and L2s, integration into search. And I picked up on like little tidbits of them doing this. I think they're on Solana, they're on ETH, they've been validators for at least the Google Clouders. But it's kind of crazy to see.
So I spoke to the Google team a lot. They've been it's lovely. It's a bottoms up swell within Google of people pushing for Web3 and crypto. And I gave a Google Talks back in 2021, and it was the best attended Google Talks because it was about crypto. And the Web3 community at Google's vast. And they told me, and the CTO, is a Web3 enthusiast. So what they're doing is, without being Web3, like converting YouTube to a Web3 thing, they're just, as you said, just kind of building out quietly. It's a takeover by a bunch of degens who are there. And I see that in all the investment banks, all the asset management firms. I see it everywhere. It's the same at LinkedIn. It's the same at Meta. It's the same everywhere. There's this kind of mid-tier of people who just harass the senior management and just push it forwards all the time. It's great to see.
Yeah, just because out of all of those magnificent seven, obviously Tesla owns some Bitcoin, has been accepting it in its cars, and obviously Elon's a bit of a Dogecoin guy, but none of the others have really. Meta kind of did the metaverse stuff, but
what's
never
going
really
on
followed
with Dell?
through.
What about Dell? Because
Yeah,
Michael Dell there's something going on there. Is he the 100 Bitcoin guy?
People say he might be Mr. 100. Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow.
Well, there's been rumors, because this Mr. 100 is just buying insane amounts, and Dell is cash rich. I think he's very because he either got margin loans or he sold part of the business, so he has a lot of cash to spend. And I don't know if he's been fanning the rumors himself.
He has. Look at his Twitter feed. He's done all sorts of stuff.
There's definitely some expectation that he might be the mysterious Mr. 100. There had been thoughts that this could be connected to an Asian sovereign wealth fund or Middle Eastern sovereign wealth fund, but it could be him. I mean, if you're a billionaire,
or Dell itself as a corporation.
Yeah, it's true.
I like his tweet. Fascinating Bitcoin, with a video of Larry Fink talking about it.
Yeah, he's done quite a lot of Bitcoin tweets, and things that allude to it as well.
He's done a poll. The most important thing: AI, Bitcoin, love and relationships. None of the above.
Which one won? Click on it.
Bitcoin won with 43%. Yeah.
There you go. He knows the game. He knows the game.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there is some talk that if I forget what level it is, but if Bitcoin gets to 300K, Satoshi will be the richest man on Earth. Which is quite funny, that the richest man on Earth at some point in the future might be anonymous, or we don't know if he's alive or not.
I still think it's the US government and the US NSA and UK GCHQ. I think they built it.
You think?
Well,
yeah.
There is some prominent UK people at the heart of it, like Adam Back is, some people say could have been Satoshi. There's obviously a Hal Finney and a bunch of different others, but yeah, there's definitely some prominent British people back then. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that the next billionaire could be the next highest, most wealthy person in the world, could be because they managed to re-rate themselves from being a 50 billion to re-rating themselves all the way to 300, 400, right? Like,
CZ's in with a chance.
Yeah, exactly. He's a perfect example. And no one actually knew his wealth, even when he was, because everyone thinks he owns, wherever it is, 50% of BNB or something absolutely crazy, which again, we'll put him up there. BNB is a $100 billion coin. So if BNB similarly did a crazy run, you could arguably say he might be up there, because he owns the majority share in Binance itself. So there were rumors last cycle, I remember, when BNB was around this sort of level and he owned Binance, there was like, well, on paper, he might be worth 300, 400 billion, right? Like, because Binance was valued at 300 billion, I think, at one stage during the peak of the last bull run. Now, obviously, I don't think it's valued anywhere near that. Where's Coinbase at? What's Coinbase market cap at?
I don't know.
But what do you reckon Binance would be valued at? And I'm pretty sure he owns it basically all. Maybe there's one or two other minority shareholders.
Maybe the Chinese state.
59 billion is where Coinbase is, the market cap.
You've got to assume that Binance is worth multiples of that.
I interviewed Richard Teng this morning, who's the CEO.
Right.
I mean, they are 220 million accounts.
It's crazy.
And higher volumes than... So they've got to be a $300 billion market cap company.
Yeah.
Right. So theoretically, you could start to argue that CZ could be in it. It's very unclear, the ownership structure, and no one knows how much of BNB he owns, but it's gone up a lot since he's been in prison. So people are assuming that he must own a lot.
Is there a moral to that story? Just, you should go to prison and become rich.
Somebody's been dumping.
Not sure about that
one. But yeah, he could walk out of there maybe amongst the top richest people in the world, but no one will really know.
There is a meme that he comes out on in 3 days' time. That is when the banana zone can start. Everyone's like, well,
really,
it can't happen without CZ.
I've seen that's like the prophecy, basically. This is going to be the moment in time, the point of inflection when he comes back. We resume, or we start to entertain the banana zone, I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that the one going around the smoking fish?
No, this is
there's no gossip of such things in the church.
Yeah, no, we don't. We don't discuss filth such as money in the church.
Yeah. It's just
I might have to get involved in this thing. You guys are so invested.
Everybody's going to, because it's rare that you get to laugh so much about the ridiculousness. It's basically a meme, which is an entire Monty Python film that you're living in.
Smoking chicken fish. So the other co-founder of Canary Labs says he remembered the original meme when it was going around Reddit circles 12 years ago, and I was like, wow, this thing is
this is
more
an
OG
OG
than I thought it was.
Yeah, that's why, it's exalted. It's now holy.
Totally. They're going to make you join the church. You're going to be a pastor, Pastor Raou.
Yeah. I believe you're a bishop now, right?
They tried to anoint me a bishop.
They tried to make
Archbishop. Should we maybe get to questions? I don't know if Arthur wants to.
Yeah, we've just been prattling on about smoking chicken.
Yeah, maybe we can do a couple of quick. We have 2 minutes left, so I can do a couple of quick ones.
Sure.
Let's see. Scrolling through. Okay, I like this question. Why would you not buy Bitcoin? It's safe, and then you have the upside of altcoins like Sol. How can you sleep at night holding no Bitcoin and only alts? This is from Bray on YouTube. Thoughts? I actually agree with him. I've come to this Bitcoin awakening in the last few days, which feels all too late. But I actually do agree. I think it's starting to feel like Bitcoin now has similar upside to many altcoins and probably less downside, and a lot more going for it. Well, with Bitcoin dominance at all-time highs, I say this.
It's just time frames. It's like we said. If a kid comes into crypto at 21 and wants to hit the lottery, he's not buying Bitcoin. So I think it's just that. That's the only other reason. But if you're just want to be a boomer like OSF, then yeah, you can sleep easy with Bitcoin.
All that's happened is he's got a kid now, and he's now gone right down the
exactly.
It'll be a pipe and slippers.
Unbelievable.
I don't think he probably belongs on this show anymore. He's just. I think he's lost his edge.
Do you guys any good like dividend yielding stocks? If I can point them my way.
Philip Morris,
Warren Buffett recently.
Yeah, I'm now Boglehead, guys.
I don't own any Bitcoin, so I have one.
Yeah, I haven't owned any Bitcoin for a long time, so I don't know. I need to just step away from screens for this weekend. I think I'm going through some very strange trading decisions right now. Should we do one more question?
Yeah, one more.
Let's see. What do you think about a Sol entry at 180 to my existing bag? I don't want to miss the banana zone by waiting for an entry in the 160s, 170s, but equally feel like there could be a pullback due to the increase in OI with the recent pump, the increase in open interest.
Yeah, I hate these kind of things because I understand the psychology is like, I want to get it cheaper. If it breaks out, the best thing is you buy a bit now, and then if it breaks higher, you buy it. If it goes lower, you can buy the rest. So you kind of put on half now. It's the only way you can fight your own psychology. I tend to, when I make a decision, just do it. I tend not to mess around because I've made that mistake so many times where you miss the trade.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, good. I was going to say 160, 170 is what, like a 15% pullback, whereas you think your upside may be like 50, 100%, 150, 200. So for the sake of just, getting cute over levels, I think get some of the risk on, but leave yourself some powder to add if it drops.
Yeah, I think that the best way to do that is either dollar cost average the rest of that bag over the course of a period. Like if you're expecting some volatility and it might go down to 160 for a period. I've done that before. So I'll buy like 25% of the bag or buy 30% of the bag. And then I'll be like, right, I'll set myself to dollar cost average it every single day for the next 2 weeks. And if it drops 20% one day, then I'll just stop that program and just buy a little bit on that day. So I feel like I've done well. And if not, then, it is what it is. Like I feel like it's still on the psychology. You're kind of happy that it's going up, even if, because you kind of bought that first bag.
So I want to give a question to the audience for everybody who's watching this on YouTube and on the platform. Assuming you can choose a meme that is over $50 million, what is going to be the best performing meme over this cycle from here? Not from inception, but from today. What are you guys and girls watching this, think is going to be the best performing meme? And we will be reading all of this. Maybe we'll put together a spreadsheet of it all. And put something on the platform on it, but I think it will be fun.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what the most
difficult.
populous answer is. Yeah, the most popular.
Yeah, and what we'll do is we'll put one of for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, if you go across to Real Vision, it's free, realvision.com. We'll create not a trade idea, but one of the notes on the outcome of this. I've just nominated Paul Guerra, who runs social media, to now do this. So we need to do that, put it all together, and we'll give you on the Real Vision platform the ability to see on that note.
I look forward to reading those responses.
Yeah, it's just interesting to know, right?
Yeah. Well, I know what your two guys is now. Feels like you've got your one for the cycle now.
Well, I'm
4 days old.
I'm still whiff, bonk, and smoking chicken fish now, and I still own Doge.
There we go. Bets
every time I say smoking chicken fish, you both laugh.
Yeah, it's hard not to laugh at that. I think it's hard not to laugh at that. All right, I guess we should wrap it up there. We're a little bit over the hour, but thanks, Raou, for joining. It's always a pleasure to have you. And I think it's a good show. This one we went a little bit off piece, but we had a lot of good chat in the end. Make sure you're following us all on X, OSF_Rekt, Raou Pal, or Raou GMI on X, I believe that's right. Yeah. And REKT Mando. Make sure you sign up to Real Vision Crypto as well, realvision.com/RVC. Next week, we'll be doing the exclusive AMA and drink session with myself and Mando. So make sure you sign up to that on the Real Vision website. And we will see you guys next Friday at the same time, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time and 4:30 p.m. British Summer Time. Have a good weekend, everyone.
See you later, guys.
Yeah.
Make large crypto trades with Kraken OTC. Execute orders of more than 100,000 off the open exchange through our premium OTC trading service. Get 24/7 access to deep liquidity, minimal slippage, and competitive execution and settlement services. Private and secure trading options include chatting securely with our trade desk for a personalized high-touch service, or use our self-service RFQ for super fast, automated OTC trading. Non-investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss and is offered to U.S. customers through Payward Interactive Inc. For more information, go to realvision.com/Kraken OTC.